I stood to leave. It wasn't safe here. Not for them or for me. I grabbed the handle of my backpack and reached for my coat where it hung on the coat rack. I'd figure something out. I always did. "Ashley Blythe Keelan McCormick," a voice boomed behind me. The house fell silent. "You take one more step toward that door, child." Hunching my shoulders a little, I turned slowly to face Aunt Peggy where she stood in the entrance to the kitchen, her arms bent so her fists rested, not so calmly, on her hips. She was angry for sure. "And I'll," she continued, "I'll—" She never finished her threat. It was like she knew that there was nothing she could really do to make me stay. Then a tear escaped the corner of her eye, sacrificing itself to tug at my heartstrings. She opened her arms. Just that. They spread to each side of her as if to accept all the pain, all the loneliness, all the fear and guilt and suffering that I'd gone through, that I'd put them through. It was forgiveness. And I so desperately wanted someone to forgive me. I ran. I was out the front door, down the sidewalk, and at the bus stop before I could think at all, let alone clearly. I sat on the bench and sighed, an opaque mist streaming from my mouth. I shivered and went to grab my coat to put it on. "Forget something?" I jumped to my feet and pivoted while lowering my center of gravity by spreading my feet apart, one foot a little more forward than the other for balance. A fighter's stance. George, my favorite cousin way back when, put up his hands in mock surrender. "Whoa, hey there, killer. I came to release the hostages." I let out a long breath. My hands and knees were shaking with adrenaline. Mostly adrenaline, I acknowledged as I slipped my arms into hostage number 1 and zipped it up, accepting the backpack next. "Thanks," I mumbled as I sat on the bench again. "What was that all about?" George asked me as he settled on the bench as well. I glanced at him out of the corner of my eye. What was what all about? He scrunched his face up and squinted at me. Yeah, he knew I was playing dumb. "You know what I mean, idiot. What was that with Mom? Why'd you leave?" I cleared my throat. "I'm sorry for disrupting everyone's Christmas. I shouldn't have come. A sudden pain in my shoulder caught me off guard, and I looked fully at George as he withdrew a loose fist. It hadn't really hurt, but I rubbed my shoulder anyway as I glared at him. What was that for? For thinking that being gone longer or forever would be better. For thinking that leaving now would fix anything. He paused, his brows drawing even closer together as he looked me right in the eye. For thinking that you don't belong here. What should I think? I practically whined, giving up the pretense of being dumb. I already caused Aunt Peggy and Uncle Joe to argue. I can't drag anyone else down. It's best if I... Stop right there. George seemed to have a thing for interrupting me. They weren't arguing. They were discussing sleeping arrangements. That was not a discussion, I said, flabbergasted. Sure it was. He paused. So, is there someplace you gotta be? He motioned at the bus pulling up, the last one of the night. Or are you willing to give us a second chance? I choked on a surprised laugh, making it sound like a bark. Me? Give them a second chance? He so had that bass-ackward. But the words made me feel warm in a way physical energy couldn't touch. At that moment, I couldn't speak, so I just nodded.